Are you a hardworking business owner striving for success online? There is help. Welcome to the School of Internet Marketing podcast, featuring candid conversations and inspiring stories of online success. Now here's your host.
Yes, this is James Martell, founder of the School of Internet Marketing, and today I am your host, and I'll be talking with Roy Weissman, president of MediaJobs.com, about how to effectively negotiate in your business, and more specifically, how to negotiate traffic for your website. Just a reminder to our listeners that if you have questions for our guests during the show or at any time, you can always send your questions on Twitter using our hashtag #GoGreatMinds. Roy Weissman has spent a career in business development, sales, marketing, finance, and management in the media, entertainment, and digital media industries. He has negotiated millions of dollars of agreements with companies including Time Warner, AT&T, Verizon, Comcast, News Corp, Gunther Rinker, General Electric, Amazon, and many others, including Jay Leno. After honing his expertise at companies including Viacom, General Electric, Playboy Enterprises, and one of the leading search engines of its time, InfoSeek, Roy transformed a 50-year-old company into a digital innovator as the first e-commerce B2B site in its segment and grew the business by more than doubling its margins prior to the sale. Currently, he teaches negotiations at Northeastern University as well as builds successful businesses online. Roy is also an instructor here at the School of Internet Marketing, and he lives in New York City with his wife, Fran. Roy, it's great to have you on. How is it going in New York City today?
Well, we're doing okay. It's not as cold as it usually is this time of year, so I guess we're doing fine. So that's the first stop.
Well, I always love, of course, visiting New York. We've had a chance to meet up with you there a couple times. There's lots of traffic, lots of fun, and truly, it really is one of these cities that never sleeps, as the song says, isn't it?
There's always something happening in New York. That's true. You go out at 3 o'clock in the morning and somebody to talk to. It's something to do.
Now, we are getting you on the line here, of course, to talk about negotiating for a business. Negotiations in general, but I guess more specifically we're going to be talking about how someone can use negotiations to increase their website traffic. Quite an interesting idea. Let's maybe just kick this off with, why did you develop a course for negotiations? Can't most people just negotiate, and isn't it just about how much one pays for whatever their product or service is? Can't they just state a price and then maybe go back and forth a little bit to finalize a deal? Why do I need a whole course on this?
Well, it's an interesting question because a lot of people confuse negotiations with bargaining. Now, and while bargaining is truly a part of negotiations, kind of a subset, it's very different. I mean, we've all gone to the fruit stand and said, okay, how much for a basket of fruit? And they said, it's $10. And you said, I'll give you $8. And the guy said, okay. That's really bargaining. And a lot of people end up doing what they think is negotiations, but effectively it's just bargaining. And bargaining is a very zero-sum game, meaning you gain and they lose, or they gain and you lose. That's not really the essence of what negotiations is. What we're going to talk about in this course is the details that make the difference in really maximizing what you can get for yourself or for your business in any negotiation. A lot of people think it's just a bargaining thing, but there's a lot more to it, and these details and these steps, these foundational best practices, can make a sea change in your ability to get a lot more for your business or for what you're trying to accomplish. I mean, I've made millions of dollars for my employers and lots of money for myself by using the very techniques that we're going to cover in the course. They're critical techniques, they're valuable techniques, yet they're not that complicated, but you'd be amazed how many people don't use them and don't follow them. It's funny, negotiation is also kind of a mindset. You don't just say, okay, I'll give you $8. That's not a mindset. Negotiation is really an understanding and a mindset. I always remember a simple little story. I once went to rent a car in Fort Lauderdale in Florida from National Car Rental. And I'd reserved the car just, like you'd reserve a car regularly. It's just National also had a feature called Emerald Isle. And the Emerald Isle, if you was if you were reserved for Emerald Isle, you would just show up at the lot and pick whatever car you liked in that section of the lot. But in this case, for whatever reason, I had just reserved the car, and they gave me a Grand Am, not a very exciting car. And when I pulled into the parking lot, I saw the cars in the Emerald Isle. And there's some really great-looking sports cars in the Emerald Isle that I'd never seen at a rental place. I'm like, I want one of those. So I got out of the van, and I went into the office, and I said, I think I'm going to switch from the Grand Am to one of the Emerald Isles. She says, oh, no, you can't do that. I said, what do you mean you can't do it? No, you must reserve Emerald Isle in advance. So you have the Grand Am. She goes, the next time you're here, you can reserve Emerald Isle, and you could take whatever you want. I said, but I'm here now. I said, there is no next. I'm here now. I want the car now. Oh, no, we can't do it. She gave me a million reasons why we couldn't do it. Finally, I just looked at her and I said, instead of talking about why we can't do it, why don't we focus on what needs to be done so I can do it today? Now, here's this woman was so fixated on telling me what I couldn't do, just became silent for a second, just started typing into the computer, and 10 minutes later, I drove out of there in the car I wanted. The moral of the story is it's all about a mindset. It's all how you present it. It's all understanding the entire environment. And that made a huge difference, and I got what I wanted, because isn't that what it's all about?
Prior to us getting on the call here, you said to me earlier that you could get almost anyone to give you their wallet. And it seems a little doubtful, of course, but tell me, how can you do that?
It's interesting because when people hear me say that, they're like, no way, you're crazy. Why would anybody give you your wallet? Because most people don't think in the right terms. They think it's just walking down the street and me tapping somebody on the shoulder and say, give me your wallet. Well, that sounds like a robbery to me, or unless you work for the government, they do it legally. But you'd be amazed how easy it is to get people's wallets. And someone's, well, that's impossible. How do you do it? Negotiation, again, it's all about understanding perspective, understanding how to position yourself. There's some very foundational things you can do that make a difference. Like I said, if I was on the street and I asked somebody for a wallet, there's no way they'd give me a wallet. They barely give me the time of day. They don't know me. They have no context. They have no credibility, no nothing. Yet if I was teaching a course in front of a room, or, I was representing a company, and they knew who I was. If I'm in front of the room and I'm an instructor, I've all of a sudden been elevated to a whole different perspective. I now have positional power, is what they call it in negotiation. I'm now the person in charge. And if I say to you, can I have your wallet for a second? People, oh, all right, here. You'd be amazed how many people won't even ask why. They just hand it to you, because they see me in a whole different light. I've been sanctioned by the school. I have credibility. All of a sudden, it's a very different environment. That's called getting a position of strength. And we're going to cover that in the course, and the significance of how to do it and how to get a position of strength when you don't feel you have anything to offer.
And that's a good point, because I know many times when I want to negotiate, that's exactly how I feel. I feel like I don't have anything to negotiate with. I feel like I basically have to agree with what they want. Can the course help us with that?
Absolutely. I mean, again, 2 of the modules of the course cover the foundations of negotiations, which are critical. And in 1 week, we talk about the 5 steps to success. And these are the 5 most valuable, important steps to maximize your negotiations. And it's amazing how most people miss 1, 2, or all of those 5 steps. They think they're negotiating and they don't follow any of the foundational steps, and they wonder why they can't get a good result. And being in a position of strength is critical, because I always say if you're not in a position of strength, then you're in a position of weakness. And a lot of it is all how you approach it and doing things a certain way. If you follow the techniques and the tactics that I talk about in the course, you can make a sea change in your ability to get far more for your business and for yourself, to get yourself better returns on your efforts, your money, because there's very critical steps. And you'd be amazed how many people don't follow the steps even after I teach them. I teach at Northeastern University, and I cover the steps, and you'd be amazed how many people do a case study or they send in an assignment, and after it's said right in the lecture what to do, they don't do it. So not only learning these steps can get you an edge over people that don't know them, you'll probably even have an edge over the people that were already exposed to them and they didn't do it. I mean, following these steps are very valuable. I follow my own steps. Teaching the class, you learn, and you learn how to follow them. So following them is so critical.
Now we titled this Negotiating for Web Traffic. We're talking about negotiating for web traffic. Currently, we're talking a little bit about more of the general overview here, and I guess these principles can be applied to not only generating web traffic, whether it's free or paid. I know you're going to get into detail on that in the course, but also to other aspects of the business. Now, you mentioned to me earlier that you said you're currently in negotiation with someone and you've gotten them to increase their offer by, if I recall, something like 300%, and the kicker was you hadn't even asked them for anything yet. How can you get someone to increase their offer without asking them?
I actually follow my own rules, which seems pretty obvious, but you'd be amazed how many times I have to remind myself, Roy, these are the 5 steps. Did you do them all? Did you do them all completely? It's really all about how you approach the situation. You'd be amazed how most people, when faced with the exact same scenario, I would say over 90%, maybe 95%, always say the wrong thing in a negotiation. And that gets a different response from the other party. And it's part of the difference in how I accomplish these things is the difference between bargaining and negotiating. In this negotiation, I've used all 5 steps, and I remind myself before I even spoke to the person, the first call I even had with them, I made sure I reminded myself about those 5 fundamentals, because it's so easy to cut corners and not to follow it. But because I followed it, in the weeks that we've been negotiating, he has increased his offer by 300%, and I've never asked him for a penny. I've never said, I want more money. But he's recognized that he's got to do something based on my actions and the things I've said on the calls and the discussions we've had. I worked a deal with one of the largest companies in the world, and yet I got them to increase their offer by 50%. Again, I never asked them for a thing. But I did my 5 steps, and I followed them religiously, because if I didn't, I would have made a mistake, and it would have cost me a boatload of money.
So fascinating stuff. So I can see we are coming up against the clock here, and I got to ask you. You mentioned in your bio that you've done some negotiations with Jay Leno. What were you negotiating with him, and what did you get? What was the deal there?
Well, it's interesting. Several years ago, I was doing a project for a company. They had a variety of internet mini networks, and of course, they wanted more traffic. So I was actually negotiating for traffic for them, and as part of that, I was working on one of the networks, which was an automotive network, and unbeknownst to me, Jay Leno, at least at that time, Jay Leno is one of the largest car collectors in the world. And I learned that then. And one of the people I worked with said to me, and I was doing all these business development deals, getting distribution, getting them traffic, and one of the people I work with said, if you really want to help us, why don't you get Jay Leno to do interviews with us? And I'm like, why Jay Leno? He explained it. And now, of course, that wasn't why I was hired, and it had nothing to do with what I was doing. And in reality, I had never, ever in my life even thought of recruiting celebrities for interviews. I had no idea who to call, what to do. But I said, I'll figure this out. It sounded like fun. So I took it on. And finally, I got a hold of the right people. And it took several months. And then after several months of talking to them and helping them understand that, now, mind you, you got to be very sensitive, because we're a small little internet network. And Jay Leno is a major worldwide celebrity who's very concerned about his image, who's very concerned about how he's going to be portrayed, and rarely does interviews and things. He's pretty he's pretty secluded in a lot of respects. So to get him to even consider this was significant, and then also to get him to think about, okay, is it safe to do it with these people? Again, using my 5 fundamental tactics and techniques. That's how I got this done. So finally, after 3 months, the guy calls me up and he says, okay, you can come out to Los Angeles. We'll give you 30 minutes with Jay Leno. Now, mind you, the people I did this for were ecstatic at the thought. 30 minutes, that sounds fantastic.
I bet.
But I thought to myself, that's not enough. I said, all this work for 3 months, 30 minutes. I got to have more. So I kept working on them, because I like to always have high standards. And by the time I was done, they agreed to let us spend 2 days with Jay Leno in his garage.
Fabulous.
So it was not an interview. It was like spending time with him, and it turned into 2 weeks worth of interviews. So that was very exciting. I was very pleased with that.
Now, of course, you are an instructor here at the School of Internet Marketing and the instructor for negotiating for traffic. Please tell us about your course.
Well, we're going to cover, as I said in our interview here, we're going to cover probably the most important element are the fundamentals, the foundation. Take the foundation out of a house, and it falls right down. So the foundation is very critical. So the first 2 sessions are going to talk about the fundamentals, the five steps to success, and the most important way to frame and understand your negotiation. Because really, living negotiations, really understanding it can make a huge difference. And then we're going to get into talking about how to negotiate for paid and free traffic, as well as partnerships and strategic alliances. And there, I'm going to get more tactical, more into specifics, what to say to people, how to figure out in paid traffic, how do I know how much to ask for? What is a good deal in paid traffic? How do I calculate that? So we get into some metrics, some specifics, how to create a budget, and we talk about in strategic alliances and partnerships, how to position it, how to understand it, how to approach people. And I get very specific as to a good way to set up a plan. Because my objective is to not just get you up to speed on understanding the foundation, but to also give you actionable steps and things you can do immediately to start making a difference with your website.
And of course, listeners, if you're so inclined to take Negotiating for Traffic with Roy Weissman, you will find all the details for his course and a link to it in the show notes. And you can also visit the schoolofinternetmarketing.com. Roy, any final thoughts?
No, I love negotiating, and I think that the most important thing people can remember is when you take the course, and hopefully you will, just learn it, but don't try to follow it. Obviously I say follow the 5 steps, but kind of ingest it, feel it, understand it. Because once you understand it, it will make it so much easier. You'll see how easy it is to get results in every aspect of your life, whether it be your professional or your personal world, and you'll see how easy it is to get those results once you follow those steps.
Roy, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about the School of Internet Marketing and to get access to all exclusive courses and interviews, visit theschoolofinternetmarketing.com. That's www.theschoolofinternetmarketing.com.